again. For those who followed our program this morning, we are starting our round of interviews, and I'm bringing you inside the language team of Sony CSL Paris. I'm here with Remi van Trijp, and he is the principal investigator of the language team at Sony CSL Paris. His research is dedicated to the pursuit of meaning and understanding. But now I would ask him to be more precise about his role in the lab and his main field of studies.
Hello. Yes, I'm a linguist by training, and I lead a small research group in Paris where we investigate everything related to meaning, understanding, and how that leads to more creativity and better language systems to help people.
This is already amazing for me because I'm very interested in these topics. And I'm going to ask you to tell us more about this project that we can see exposed there. And it is the Talking Heads project experiment. And can you tell me more about this?
Well, it all started with the question of where does language come from. It's a very fascinating question. Like for centuries, people have been asking that. And when 25 years ago the lab was founded, we had this idea of let's turn this upside down. And instead of looking at real languages, we were looking at how can robots construct their own language. And so we put them into a room and we let them talk to each other. And the talking heads is one of the big milestones in these experiments where we really scaled this up for thousands of artificial agents and how they invent their own language.
Nice. So this project is about robots and the way they can create or invent a language, if I understand well.
Yeah, so robots or artificial agents, and really it's about what is the minimal that we have to give them so they could construct a language similar to human languages. And on the one hand, this teaches us how human languages evolve, but also how we can create artificial systems that know how to negotiate meaning every time they interact with each other. And so you have to put all the components together. You have to put the robot into a space. You have to take care of the embodiment. You have to let them talk and understand and do all of these tasks.
Okay, and can you tell something about the practical way to do it?
Right. So if you want to investigate it, you have to tackle all of the complexity full on. So you have to, like you see behind me on the screen, the robots interacting. You have to put them in a real room and interact like humans do. So like children and pointing to objects and I don't know what you mean. What you mean? You point to an object and you try to infer from the context what you mean. And the talking heads was really one of the first experiments where thousands of agents would travel from city to city and become a robot into a camera, and they would see on a whiteboard objects, and then they would play interactions with each other. And just by continuously doing this, because in the beginning they don't understand each other at all, but by continuously, just like children, keep talking, gradually they learn how to use language.
So this is amazing. So at the first stage, they didn't know how to interact, and then little by little, they achieved to understand each other.
Exactly, and important is also that we don't give them any words, we don't give them any grammar, we don't even give them concepts. They don't know what is yellow, they don't know what is left or right, but they have this capacity of recognizing objects and then making distinctions that are relevant to them, and then they can create language to that and then share with each other, and it's like spontaneously you have this understanding that emerges.
Okay, and what about what we had before this experiment, and what we will and what happened after this experiment? So, what the experiment brought to us?
Right, so let's say in 96 and even today, I think a lot of people who study language, they think that in order to be able to use language, you have to be born with a lot of categories already inside. And what really we showed is that all of these categories and all of these linguistic structures, they can actually evolve in a usage-based way just by interacting with each other and doing all of that. And so this was a major breakthrough, going from this received knowledge that language was something you were born with, that you can construct it from the ground up. And because it was so new, we had to develop all these technologies that didn't exist, completely didn't exist. And so after the talking heads, we moved that into the domain of more complex languages. And these technologies we now use for also natural languages as well.
Okay, and so which are the further developments of these studies? Like,
Yeah, so we once we realized that these technologies were not just for artificial languages, we went from the artificial to the natural, and so now we look at meaning creation between humans and how humans create meanings in text. And so we look at both ways in how can we extract meanings. For example, when people talk on social media about certain topics, or people write an article, what are the narratives that they create? And we try to extract them from these things. And another thing is looking at meaning and how it leads to creativity. So if you want to write something and you're stuck with a writer's block, can we help you? If we know what your intentions are, can we suggest new continuations? And the demos that we are showing here today are really continuations in that respect, in being more creative and also understanding more what people say.
okay, thank you. This seems very interesting to me, and I would like to ask you, what about the lab organization? I mean, you are. This is a work in group, I think.
Yes and no. So, I mean, these are complex projects. So, yes, we work in group and we work all together. But at the same time, it's very important in our lab to have a strong sense of autonomy and knowing which direction you want to go. So, it's not that I am on the throne and I give instructions. It's like each of the researchers in at CSL and in our team, they have their own goal and they have their own direction, and we all go in the same direction, but they all have their own vision, and it's very important to stimulate this creativity in researchers.
Thank you. So it's like a symphony, let's say, where each note has its own role.
That's a very beautiful way of putting it. Yes.
Thank you. So after we will after this interview for work for I really thank you, and we will have some other interviews in this stands. And can you not unveiling but just anticipating something about the other things we are going to see in this wonderful stands?
Yeah, so we have aside the talking heads experiment, of course, we have two other demonstrations for the language team. One is really about the creativity and about how can you become a better writer. And I'm not going to give you more about that. You really have to try it. But if you want to be a next Bob Dylan or song composer, this is where you have to go. And the other one is really about understanding. And this is in Italian, so people who have difficulty with English, they can try it out. You type some text in and the machine will try to find what are the causal relations that you have. For example, if you say something like sea levels are rising because of global climate change, well, it will detect that climate change is the cause and rising sea levels is an effect. So it try to reconstruct these meanings for you.
Okay, so thank you for telling us these amazing things, and I feel we can now say goodbye, and we are waiting for the other interviews with other researchers from the language team. Thank you.